This video, guys, is about getting yourself into position. This is the most important thing when it comes to real estate investment, right? Anything you do, you need to, for one, do your homework. And so I'll get into analyzing properties and all that stuff in some later videos. But first things first, you need to make sure you have your finances in order so that you can get the proper lending or funding that you need to acquire these investment properties. So let's talk about it. First of all, your income. You need to be showing the last 2 years of taxes. And in those tax returns, your lender's going to be looking at that, and that's going to be your proof of income over the last 2 years. They want it to be steady. If there's a stop in your income for any reason, we need to know why. Let's say, hey, I was pregnant, and this actually happened to me. I was pregnant, had a baby, and through the course of me having my daughter, I took off a period of time from work on disability, and then I took even further time. So when I went to get funding, a lender was like, hey, this year you made a little bit less. What happened versus this year? And then you just simply explain that. But we want to show 2 years proof of income through your tax returns. So that means, yes, we do have to pay our taxes, because if you have not paid your taxes in those 2 years, they're also going to be looking at that. Also with income, you want to be able to make the most amount that you can in whatever field you're in. The more money you make, the more lending power you'll have, right? So with that being said, let's say if we're looking at a $100,000 house, if I make more income, I can look at a $200,000 house. So it's all based on your income. And I'll get into things like partnership and stuff like that, because there are other ways that you can merge forces with other people, and that'll boost your income on paper. And then you guys can go ahead into a property together. So income, bam. Okay, so the next thing that I would say you need to focus on is going to be your credit, right? So we already know credit is everything. No, it's not cash, but in most instances, credit is king, right? Other people's money. Using other people's money, leveraging that to acquire assets, that kind of makes you king or queen as well, right? So credit. What kind of credit score do we need, Danielle? So basically, at the lowest, you need a 620, right? But a 620 nowadays is going to get you a really not so high interest rate. So I would suggest getting yourself up, get into the 800s, get into the 700s at least. I would not want to have a credit score of 600. You do not want a 620. Now, I'll talk about some stuff later, because as it relates to commercial property, buying property in the name of your business, this 700 credit score and all that is not even necessary. The minimum 640, right? Nothing major, nothing fancy. So with your credit, there's some things most people don't know. Our younger folks were not really taught that, hey, when you get out of high school, they're taught don't get a credit card. You need the credit cards, but you have to learn how to utilize those credit cards to your advantage. So establishing credit is a major thing. If you don't have credit, you're going to start off with a low credit score. Like you'll have a 500 something credit score. So establish credit. For one, let's make sure that score is in the 700s. And a way to do that is make sure you're making your payments on time, right? Make your payments on time consistently so you can develop a credit history. If you have a credit history, that looks great to a bank versus not having a credit history and then having a credit card. Let's say you had it for 3 months, right? You had a credit card for 3 months, you put $5,000 on it, and then you came one day and you just paid the $5,000 off. Well, that's great, but it doesn't show consistency that a bank wants to see to give you a loan for the next 30 years, right? So keep that in mind. Credit, let's build your credit. Let's get that credit over 700. Let's have a lengthy history of credit, and let's make sure we're making our payments on time. So number 3, the third thing you need to do when it comes to getting yourself prepared and in position to get this funding for your investment is your debt to income ratio. Now, this is a huge thing, whether it's commercial or whether it's for your personal property, which your personal property is an investment, right? But most people, it's our first wealth investment. So your debt to income ratio, banks want to see that you're under 36%, right? If your debt to income ratio is under 36%, that lets the bank know, hey, you have room to do some extra things. You have room to make this purchase. Whereas if you are over that 36% threshold, you're kind of like, almost 40 to 50% of your income is being used for something else. How are you gonna have the money to come pay my bills? That's basically what they're saying. So it's a simple ratio. Go ahead, take all of your monthly debt, go ahead, take all of your income, and you want to divide your debt by your income. And that will give you your percentage. So you may be thinking too, okay, Danielle, well, how do I get my debt to income ratio down so that I'm under the 36%? It's only two things you can do. You can either find a way to increase your income, or you can find a way to decrease your debt. So that means cutting out some things, right? Target cards, or just the unnecessary stuff that we do. As you get ready to purchase property, you may want to just cut that out for the next 6 months, right? So you can see a consistent change. Okay, so just to sum that up for you guys, the main 3 things you need to do to get yourself into position to purchase a real estate investment is, number 1, getting your tax returns ready. It's all about your income. You want to show that you're making enough money to fund the investment that you're trying to purchase. Number 2 is going to be making sure that your credit is in the 700s, 800s, like it needs to be up there, guys, especially with these high interest rates today. And number 3 is your debt to income ratio. You need to make sure that your debt to income ratio is under 36%, right? Anything above 36%, you either need to drop some expenses, or you need to go ahead and find a way to increase that income. So that means Uber, YouTube, whatever you have to do. So stay tuned. I have some more videos coming up. The next one, I think we're gonna focus on the different types of investments, because a lot of people are like, okay, I can do house hacking, I can do a multifamily, I can do a new construction, but Danielle, what do I do? Single family, multifamily, what? We'll get into it on the next YouTube. So stay tuned.